Yep, it's
Hello.
recording.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Ignite Your Personal Brand Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Darlene Hawley, and I'm so excited to kick off 2019 with these powerful stories and trainings to help you create an authentic, magnetizing, and profitable brand and business. In this series, I'll be interviewing amazing women who will be sharing their story for why they started their journey into entrepreneurship, and they're sharing their top tips to make an impact on your bottom line to create a thriving business in 2019. And I am so excited for today's guest. You guys are going to love Nicoline. She's got amazing tips that are going to help us learn all about how to connect while we're out networking in our communities. Welcome.
Yay, thank you. Thank you, Darlene. Really a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad to have you on today. So let's start off. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you live, and kind of what got you started in this entrepreneurship journey. What made you want to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, where to start? Well, my name is Nicoline Huizinga. It's a very difficult name to pronounce.
Yes, which is
It's a
why I
very
left your
Dutch.
last name off.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm Dutch. I'm based in the Netherlands. I've always lived here, but I really love to travel the world, and I really love to have my clients all around the globe. I always joke that the world is my playground, and I really love that. I'm an entrepreneur since 2010. And before that, I always worked in the corporate world, especially for a huge training and coaching company. And that's where I kind of learned the tricks of the trade when it comes to training and coaching. And since 2010, I help entrepreneurs to stand out in their markets by creating amazing content and really representing their brand and really to make a great connection with their ideal clients. And I really love doing that. I really love it.
And you're so good at it. One of the reasons I fell in love with you when I first met you was you're a lot like I am when it comes to connecting. Like that's my number one thing that I love to do. I love to connect with people. I love to learn all about them, learn their insides, see exactly what makes them tick. And you're very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, that's so funny, isn't it? That we discovered that immediately about each other, and yeah, that's why I love being on this summit. So thank you for that.
No, I'm so glad to have you. Now,
Yeah.
because you're a master connector is what I call you. I think that you're brilliant at it. So today we're going to be talking about networking. And
Yes.
as you're out networking in the world, connecting is one of the top things that should be your goal when you're networking is how do you connect with people? How do you build these authentic relationships where you're able to start that know, like, trust factor? So
Yeah,
today you're going to share some of your top tips for networking. So
definitely.
why should people network? Tell us a little bit about first. Let's kind of give a backstory to it. Why on earth should people be out networking and meeting people and connecting in their communities?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, when I started out as an entrepreneur, I hated networking. I really hated it because I had this weird image of networking events with guys in tailor-made suits exchanging business cards. And I thought, oh God, that's not my world. I don't want to be part of that. So I really dreaded going to networking events. And really did a lot of research when it comes to networking. And I found out there are many networking events that I really don't like because it's all about showing off, boasting about your success, about your clients, about anything that isn't real, basically. So over the years, I found out a really good way to find the right network, etc. But the main reason for me for networking, what I found out is a huge misunderstanding that a lot of people have, especially when you just start your business. You think that networking is all about getting sales leads. And that's not the thing. That's really not the thing. The number one, and for me, the only reason to go to networking events is to create ambassadors. To
Yes.
create ambassadors for my business, for me and for my business. Because if people don't like you, they don't trust you, I mean, nothing ever is going to happen. And especially when you go to a networking event with the idea to gain as many sales leads as possible, you're going to have an awful time. And you're going to be the worst conversation partner for the people that you will be talking to. So the thing is, it takes a lot of pressure off when you go to a networking event and you just go there to think, okay, I'm going to create ambassadors for me, for my brand, for my business. And then you just go out there and have amazing conversations about you, about your business, about what you really love doing, about the problems that you solve, instead of constantly ticking boxes thinking, oh my God, is this guy or girl interesting enough for me to follow up on? So it really takes a lot of pressure off to consider the fact that you will be creating ambassadors. And one big misunderstanding as well is that people always want to speak to as many people as possible at a networking event. And the thing that happens then is that you only have those superficial, shallow conversations, and you just get stuck at the level of who are you and what do you do. And I really want to create a solid connection right from the start. I mean, if you have the goal to speak to 2 or 3 really nice people, and if you have 2 or 3 nice connections after a networking event, that's great. And I think that's much more valuable than speaking to 20 or 25 people. You cannot remember their names. You will never remember what they do. And with 2 or 3 people, that's quite easy. So that's for me the main reason to go to a networking event.
Yeah, and I love that. Like you going out and talking, having a goal of 2 to 3 people to connect and make an authentic relationship with, versus going out and wanting to meet 200 people at a networking event. It's unrealistic. When you walk into the room, scoping it out and going, I'm going to have to meet all these people. That's overwhelming for me. Like I love to go and connect and network, and I'm enough of an introvert that I don't love doing it all the time. And I can become a little bit more extrovert when I'm in a networking environment where once I'm there, I do like to go meet people and kind of social butterfly around a meet, but it takes so much pressure off not having to meet every single person in the room and just really truly making those connections. I know when I started my business back in 2007, I joined a lot of networking groups. I went to chamber meetings. I went to every type of group you can think of, BNIs and any place that I could make an introduction and kind of get my name out. And I used to leave with stacks like this big of cards. People just gave me cards like nonstop. And I didn't feel like in the beginning I was making any kind of connection other with maybe 1 or 2 people after I left, where I really felt like, oh, I actually met somebody today. And if I saw them again, I would know what they looked like, who they were, what they did. But I would go home and be like, what do I do with this big stack of cards?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't even know who they were.
I always had the same, you know, when I started, and I was really a perfectionist. Well, I still am. But at the time, I was really, so on each and every business card, I just scribbled some things saying, the guy with the mustache, the guy who drove a Jaguar, or the guy who had his own business since, I don't know how many years. So just those little characteristics that made me remember who they were. And nowadays, I just don't do that. Sometimes I don't even bring my business card. Because the way to connect now is in your phone. I mean, on LinkedIn, there is this QR code thing, and it's really easy to make the connection when you're talking to someone. Just take out your phone and scan each other's QR code, and you're done. So it's really easy these days to make that connection. Yeah.
It's so much easier going on to social media because you can actually go onto their page and click through and learn a little bit about them too.
Exactly.
Versus just walking away going, the guy with the Jaguar, he had a nice car. I don't remember what he did or if I wanted to work with them. But it gives you an opportunity to open up that door easier. Because I remember I would come home with my big stack of card and I would email everybody that I met. I've always been really good at following back up and connecting with people after I met them. Yeah. But I didn't always get that in return. A lot of people didn't follow back up. They didn't connect. And I was like, they're totally doing this wrong. Like, you have to reach out. The more times that I engaged with people, like, I felt like I was growing that relationship more to where I would know if we were going to work together, whether as an alliance or a potential client. But whatever that situation was, it was nice just to build a relationship, not just have another business card to throw away or have sitting on my desk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's much more valuable to really build a relationship instead of making as many connections as possible.
Yes. So good. All right. So there's a lot of networking opportunities I know in my
Yes.
community, and I'm sure in yours as well. So what are your top tips, or what do you think is the best way to find a networking group that's right for you? And how do you weed through them?
Yeah, well, the thing is, the first thing to do is to really find out in what kind of environment do you thrive for networking. So is that an evening event? Is that a morning event like the BNI concept? I know the business breakfasts.
Yeah.
Is that when visiting a company's office, or is it in a hotel or a restaurant? What exactly do you like? So, and that takes a bit of testing, of course, before you know that. But one of the good things to just try out is, if you have people in your network, people that you really connect with, ask them where they go. What kind of network do they go to, and why do they go there? I mean, what do you really like? Is it a social event? I mean, is it just having a coffee or a drink or a dinner or whatever? Or is it a social activity? I mean, like, I don't know, doing a game together or kind of team building thing for the networking group? Or does it have a learning component to it? I mean, with interesting guest speakers. So it's really to find out what is it that you like at networking events. For me personally, I love the learning aspect to networking events. So for me, I always love it when it's a combination. So an interesting guest speaker and the opportunity to do some networking. Because when you have a great guest speaker, you always have a topic to talk about. That's really, it's a lot easier. But it really depends on what you like as a person and what do you prefer. But the best thing to do, and to really take the shortcut, is to ask people that you really connect with, people who are in business for a longer time, and you just ask them, what are the networks that you go to, and can I come with you? Can you just introduce me to this network? Because then you always have someone who you know, and they have selected the group for you already. So that saves a lot of time.
It's nice to have it pre-screened.
Yeah.
To say there's people in the group that they know that they're going to be able to introduce you to, connect you to. Exactly. They know that it's a good group of people who aren't just going to sell to you. They're actually going to want to build relationships. Yeah. Which is nice. I like that idea. Especially, it's always nice walking into a room and knowing at least one person in there. I can't tell you how many networking events I've gone to and not known a soul. And sometimes I would psych myself up a little bit in the car, even like, okay, I'm going to walk into this room. I don't know anybody in there. I'm going to beeline straight for the drink or to where the food is, or how am I going to walk into the room? Because you can feel awkward sometimes, because especially going to a new networking group, there's other people there that already have connections. And so you haven't met them yet. So it can feel cliquey, or like you're an outsider as you walk in. So I like the idea of having somebody either that is introducing you and you taking you in, or I like to do like the buddy system too. If I have somebody that I know who wants to start networking as well, or wants to go to a different event, it's nice to say, hey, let's meet up. We'll go in together, find out what they're looking to get out of the networking meeting. Let's share what I'm looking to get out of it. That way we can kind of work with each other. Yeah. To work the room
exactly.
The right people.
Yeah, and that really helps. And you know what? If you enter the room, if you do enter the room all by yourself, find someone who is alone as well.
Yeah.
And just walk up to them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do you know the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins?
Yes.
Okay. Well, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just walk over there and stretch out your hand and say, I can see you're alone here too. Can I introduce myself? I mean, and they will be pleased and thrilled to have someone walking up to them, especially when can you imagine just standing there all by yourself and someone walks up to you and says, oh, I can see you're all by yourself. Let's meet. Yes. That's lovely. That's really lovely. And if you enter the room, you're all by yourself and you only see little groups, just observe them for a while and pick out the group that has the most fun together.
Yes.
And then you walk up to them. You walk up to them and you just say, well, guys, you look like you're having a good time. Do you mind if I join you? And no one will ever say, oh, yeah, we mind. Just go away. No one will ever say that. So, and then it's done. But it just takes a bit of courage to take that first step. But no one is going to ask you. It's just, well, you need to take the first step, and then it will happen. That's my experience as well.
Yes, mine too. So talking about courage, before a networking event, before you walk into that room, what are some things that you recommend to kind of get yourself in the right mindset and kind of strategize before you walk in? So what are some of your tips for preparing before the event? Because you have to have a plan. You can't just walk into the room. You have to have a plan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you need to have a few things in order, I think. First of all, you need a kind of goal. Like, today I want to meet, I don't know, 3 people. 3 people whom I haven't spoken to before. That's a goal, right?
Yeah.
One other goal could be, I want to practice my pitch. That could be a goal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you need to have a pitch. And that's really part of your preparation. Don't you hate it when you come to a networking event and people get put on the spot and they say, oh, yeah, please introduce yourself and your business. And then they're just making up this excuse. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared. I mean, why do you come to a networking event? You always should be prepared to deliver a sales pitch. You really should be ready to deliver it. So that's really a thing to prepare your sales pitch. And even if it's not perfect yet, then one of your goals could be to practice it and involve the people that you talk to during the networking event. Say, you know what, I'm practicing a new pitch. Do you mind telling me what you think? And people love that. People really want to help you. So that's part of the preparation. And then, of course, what really helps me when I'm in my car or on the train on my way to the networking event, I always use some power music to get me in the right mode. And there are many playlists on Spotify, for instance, to really get your fire going, to get into the, I am excited, that mode.
Yes.
That really works. That really works well. And if you are very nervous and you arrive at the venue, just go to the bathroom and do some power posing for 2 minutes. Do you know the concept of power posing?
Share with those listening. Okay. What is a power pose for you?
Okay. The power posing is just standing there with your arms stretched, because what happens when you do this, I mean, this is the victory sign, right? Yeah. When people win, they do this. And what happens is that your testosterone level goes up, so your power hormone gets up, and your cortisol, the stress hormone, goes down, those levels. So when you do this, and especially when you really stretch, and if you do it for 2 minutes, then you will feel more powerful and less stressed. And there's an American, I think she's a psychologist, Amy Cuddy, who researched this, and she is amazing. Watch her TED Talk about this. It's amazing. And it really, really works. And it feels a bit funny when you're in a hotel bathroom and you're standing like this for 2 minutes.
With your arms up in the air.
Yeah.
You can do it in the stall if you need to too.
Yeah, but it really works. It really works. It really helps to release the stress and to decrease the stress level and to increase your feeling of being powerful. And that's what you need when you enter the room all by yourself, right? So that's those are things I would say to prepare, to define your goal. Why am I going to this networking event? What is my sales pitch? And how I'm going to deal with the nerves if I have any.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love the idea of the power pose. I haven't done that one before, but I might add that to my list of things I do. But I like to go in there and kind of just shake out the sensation that's going through my body. Like I just literally like shake out my arms, shake out my legs a little bit. And I usually go into like a stall, so it's not weird. I'm not like doing a jitterbug dance in the bathroom area. But it helps just kind of get some of that nervous energy out, because I think when you're nervous, it's just like a sensation in your body. Like we just need to get it moving and get it active. So I love the power stance, putting those arms up in the air, shaking out the nerves and the excitement, energy. And I like to do like little I am statements or mantras in my head too, or say them to myself before I even go in sometimes, you know, just to set that clear intention for what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, and you know, the thing is, when being nervous, physiologically, it's the same sensation as being excited in your body. I mean, for your body, it's exactly the same physiological experience. So there's no difference between being nervous or being excited for your body. The only thing is that our brain labels it differently. So as soon as you go to a networking event and you're feeling nervous, the thing is to really observe the feeling you have in your body and try to relabel it as I'm excited. I'm really excited to go here, to be here, and to meet new people. That's exciting. And by relabeling your nervousness, it's really, really helping you when you go out there and actually meet new people.
No, that's so refreshing, because I think just having ways to get that energy out, and that those butterflies can build up. So just kind of shaking them off and getting rid of them so that you can go and be excited to meet somebody. It's exciting to go network, because you don't know who you're going to meet. It could be a next client. It could be that next referral partner.
Exactly.
So, I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned having a pitch prepared before you go to the event.
Yes.
And I know I work a lot with my clients on this too, making sure we know exactly what it is that we're going to say to people that we meet. Because like you said, you can't walk into a room, especially a networking room, and not have something prepared to say, kind of that elevator pitch. Yeah. If you were trapped in an elevator for 30 seconds with somebody and they asked you, hey, what do you do? Yeah. Would you be able to tell them clearly so that they could leave the conversation, and maybe they don't need you, but they might know somebody who does, or they're going to be, oh, I met somebody just the other day that does X, Y, Z. Let me tell you about them, or let me connect you with them. So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you share your secrets for creating that pitch for us?
Yeah, well, the thing is about a pitch, I think there are many ideas around the perfect pitch. And I would always say to have a pitch is all about a conversation starter. So it should be inviting to ask questions. It should be interesting enough to talk a bit more about it. And I think it's really nice to have a few versions up your sleeve. So first of all, you need a kind of caveman version, which is in one sentence. And it's an absolute no-brainer for people to understand what it is that you do and who you do it for. So I see so many people who have very complicated job titles, and then they use that in their pitch. But the thing is, at the very beginning, when people listen to you, the lizard brain needs a little thing that it recognizes, like, okay, so you are, I don't know, a branding expert, or you are a coach or a trainer or whatever. But as soon as you start talking about very complicated job titles, the lizard brain doesn't light up. And the thing is, in our brain, it starts in the lizard brain, it goes up to our limbic brain, and then it goes on to the neocortex. So we need the first initial words should be the caveman version of our pitch. So it's all about, I help people with, well, X, Y, Z. Something that is a real no-brainer that really everyone understands. Even if they're not in your industry, they're not in your business, they really understand it all. So I help people with sales. I help them to achieve their targets or anything that really lights up the lizard brain. Then you can elaborate a bit more on what it is that you do and how you do that. So to talk a bit about the method, because then the message gets conveyed to the limbic brain. And then you can add a little extra about what makes you special. And for instance, you could introduce some facts or some quotes from happy customers as a kind of evidence, because that's what the neocortex wants, right? The neocortex wants facts and statistics and all those things to prove that you're really good at what you do.
Yeah, you can solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think it's always nice to have a few versions of your pitch so you can create the kind of standard pitch, like I help, in my case, I help entrepreneurs, solopreneurs to be visible and confident and to stand out in their markets. I mean, everyone knows what it's like to be visible, and everyone knows what it's like to be confident. But there are so many people out there with boring pitches. I mean, I attended a networking event once, and there were 20 new members, and they all had to pitch in, I think it was a minute. They got a minute instead of 30 seconds. And they were all so boring. It was awful. I mean, by the time we went to number 8, I had forgotten what number 1 had said because it was so boring.
They can be so generic.
Yeah.
And basic.
Yeah, it was generic. It was basic. I always compare a pitch to be sticky, like spaghetti. When you, I think the Italians do this. They throw spaghetti to the wall to see if it sticks.
Yeah, I do that when I cook spaghetti. I used to, at least.
Yeah.
The only way I used to know how to tell if it was done.
Yeah, exactly. So when it sticks, I mean, and that's what you need, right? In a sales pitch, you need something sticky. You really need something sticky. So what I always say in my pitch is that I create kick-ass content for my clients. And then that's a word that people think, kick-ass content. I mean, what is that? So, and it's not clear initially, but then you have a conversation starter.
Yeah, because they want to know what kind of content you can help them create that's going to make it stand out and be kick-ass.
Yeah, so it's about kick-ass content, it's about sticky sales pitches, and it's about client-winning proposals that I help my clients with. And they want to know about that. But those words should be rolling off your tongue really easily, and if someone wakes you up in the middle of the night, you should be able to reproduce a sales pitch really easily. So it's all about practicing, asking for feedback, adjusting your pitch, and doing it again and again and again. And it changes over time, obviously, because the pitch that I use now is nowhere near the pitch that I used when I started my company. So
because you've grown and developed since you created your business. So as you evolve, your pitch is going to evolve with you. I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one I was listening to, but last week or the week before maybe, and they were talking about making sure your message stands out and people understand what you do. And they said, go to Starbucks and just introduce yourself to the person in front of you or behind you and say, hey, I'm trying out this new pitch, this new networking approach. Do you mind if I tell you what I do? And you can tell me if it makes sense to you and if it's interesting. And I was like, that's kind of funny. Like, imagine walking in, just standing in line and somebody turns around and is like, hey, let me tell you about myself a little bit and what I do. But it gets you in the practice. So if you're not comfortable and you're not normally introducing yourself in that way, it's a great way to do it. Do it with, it's a safe, Starbucks is pretty safe.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have their attention captivated because you're standing in line for probably 2 to 5 minutes at least. So make use of that good time and pitch yourself right there. And who knows, you might have your next client. They might know exactly who your next client's going to be.
That's amazing. I love that idea. I really love that. I mean, and that takes a bit of courage too, right? To just go into a Starbucks and just stand in line and say, oh, do you mind if I practice this with you? And I think that's the powerful thing about pitches, that you practice it a lot, really practice it, and ask for feedback. And that's what you could do during a networking event too. I mean, just go there and say, you know what, I have a new sales pitch. Do you mind if I practice it with you? And when you ask for help, that's my experience anyway, people always want to help you. They really want to be, I mean, just imagine for people to come up to you and say, do you mind helping me? And of course you want to help people, right? You want to help a fellow entrepreneur when you're at a networking event. So yeah, that's great. And one thing, when you are pronouncing your name, and that's one big mistake that many people make when they're creating a sales pitch, they are so used to pronouncing their own name. They speak so fast that no one really hears their name. So it's always important to speak slowly and deliberately when you pronounce your name, and just include a bit of silence after your name, so people can digest. Okay, so your name is Nicoline with the difficult to pronounce Dutch name. But you know that's what you want people to remember. You want them to remember your name, and well, that sticky punchline that you present to them. And one way to do that as well is the kind of TEDx way of pitching, as I always call it, is to look for the nod. So you begin your sales pitch with a question like, do you know these people who, and then you insert the problem that most of your clients have, and then people will say, oh yeah, I know those people. And then you say, okay, my name is da 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 da, and I help, well, your target group with, well, that problem by, and then you insert your method. So you should have some things in place before you go to a networking event, which is your target group. You need a very well-known problem of your target group that you solve, and you need something to say about how you solve that. Is there a special method or whatever? Don't mention the real method, because no one cares what it's called. They just want to know how it solves the problem. And then add, sorry?
No, say how to get there. They don't need to know. They just want to know how do we get there?
Yeah, exactly. They don't really care if it's the 7S model or the whatever. You know, no one cares. And that's a pity. If you develop the 7S model, and you're very proud of the 7S model and you want to talk about it, but no one cares about the 7S model. They really want to know, how do you solve, well, this is the problem that I have, and what is your solution, and how fast can you get me there? And that's the thing that people want to know. So, so I think if you focus on those issues before you go to a networking event, then that really helps to create your pitch.
Yeah, and knowing who your ideal client or ideal audience is important. You have to do the research. That's something that I work with my clients on and get really solid on before they even move on to a lot of other steps in their business. Is they have to do the research. They have to know who their ideal audience is. They have to do research and really go out there and actually talk to them and find out what those pain points are and connect it back to the solution that you do offer. Because once you know your ideal client, it's so much easier to make those, to have that pitch and that conversation, because you're going to know exactly who you're talking to.
Yeah,
it's going to make sense when you're connecting with them.
Yeah, and it's so important to be aware of the words that they use, because once you start using those words, people will recognize themselves immediately, and then they think, oh my God, you're in my head. I have that problem. So really be careful when you talk to people. Don't interpret, but write down the exact words that people are using, because those are the words that you can use in your sales pitch, especially when you use the TEDx way of pitching, as I call it, you know, to look for the nod. If you use those words, then people say, yeah, that's a problem I have too.
Yeah, because if you use jargon words, if you use coach words or words that nobody else in other industries might understand, no one's going to know how to connect you, because they're like, well, I don't even know what you just said.
Exactly.
So you have to be able to speak exactly to your ideal audience. so that they can connect and go, oh, I've been looking for you. Where have you been all my life?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to dig into the pain of your ideal client, and it's really about the pain. So it's really to go dark and deep on them and their pain. So it's really about what keeps them up at night, and how desperate are they to solve this. I mean, it's really to know them, and that really helps when you start crafting, well, anything that has to do with your offer, but especially when you talk about your sales pitch.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you can connect with people that you don't know? So we've talked about going into these networking groups and connecting with people that you've never met before. So once you have so I've already walked in, I've introduced myself, told you who I am, kind of what I do, what problems I solve. Where do you go from there? Like, what are some good ways to build on that relationship?
Well, what I always like to ask people is, please tell me about your latest project that you're really enthusiastic about. And then they start talking. And especially when you ask them that question, they will ask you the same question in return. So that would be a very nice way to take, because then they will be talking about their passion. And then you have a real conversation. If you feel really courageous, then you can say, you know what, I'm not really into networking, and or it's my first time here, and please tell me, how do you feel about networking? And then you really have a conversation about the networking itself. And I found out that that's really amazing when you start talking about that and people connect with you on a topic like fear or reluctance, or, I mean, fear is such a big thing for many people, really for many people. I was in an elevator once with a guy, and it was really kind of elevator pitch moment, but it was this awkward silence, and we both thought, perhaps we should say something, but we were both not really comfortable to say something. And then all of a sudden he said, you know what, I should be saying something really interesting here, but the truth is, I don't have any interesting question to ask you, but I would love to know you and to have a coffee. So are you up for that? And I instantly, I love that guy because it's so honest. It's so honest, and it's, and perhaps, it's because I'm Dutch, and the Dutch are really well known and, well, notorious for being direct. But it's, I think it's so important to be honest and to be real, and to say, to really have the courage to say to a person like, you know what, I'm really not that good at networking, so can you show me the ropes? Can you tell me, what should I do? What is your top tip?
Yeah, I've often asked at networking groups, after I've gotten comfortable talking with somebody, who else do you think in this room do you think I should meet? And then ask them to introduce you to somebody else as well, because it's really hard just to walk up and, like you said, walk into the middle of a group where there's 3 or 5 people already talking and laughing, and it's nice to have somebody go, oh, you know what, I think you actually would connect great with so-and-so. Let's go over there and meet them. And then they walk over, introduce, everybody's talking, and then you can connect and build those relationships from there too. It's nice to have doors open for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's always a great question, to ask another person to introduce you to someone else. And one that I really love as well is when you're talking about creating ambassadors. I mean, you could be an ambassador for other people as well. So it's asking about their ideal job. So, for instance, when I always ask people to say, you know what, if I get picture the ideal job for you, what do I need to look out for? So what does it need to contain to call you and say, you know what, I got a great job for you? And then, you can really create a connection, and people will love it when you ask that question. And my experience is they will always ask it in return. So that really helps. And then, just really make a true connection. And if you, for instance, one of the things, it's people always love talking about being successful. But another great question that I always use is, if you could change one thing in your business right now, just like that, what would it be? And then you have an amazing conversation about something that they would like to change, something that worries them, something that is not that perfect. Because we don't want perfection, right? Because I always felt very intimidated by people who seemed to have made it and to be incredibly successful. I really want to be around real people and real business people sharing what keeps them up and at night, and what really worries them sometimes, and asking for advice even. I mean, that's the kind of people that I want to be around with. I don't want to be around people who are just showing off their, look at me, I'm all being successful and perfect. I mean, if I want that, I'll just have a look at some Instagram accounts. I mean, that's fine. I want things to be real, and that those questions really help people to open up and to be real.
Yeah, so, and like when we started this conversation, we were saying it's important to actually build that relationship. It's not about meeting 300 people that day. It's about meeting 2 to 3 people and really getting to know who they are and build that relationship from there. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So relationship building is probably the most important piece to connecting and to networking. So after you leave that networking event, what are like your top strategies for following back up with people? Because I think a lot of times, like I was saying before, I'd come home with a stack of business cards and I personally would email them, but I would send out just as many business cards, because especially back in 2007 when I started my business, it was a lot of handing out cards. I would come home with stacks. I know they came home with stacks of business cards, and I was always surprised how little amount of people actually followed back up with me. So and I think follow up is the key. Like you have to follow up, whether it's at a networking event or if you meet with a client or a prospect. How do you follow back up? So what's your top strategy tips for following back up after?
Well, first of all, when you are at the networking event, don't just give your business card. Rather, wait for them to ask for your business card. Because then there's a genuine interest. So you can really exchange, when you really have a connection. I mean, if there are people who are just handing out their business cards like they're dealing as a set of cards, I mean, no one cares. I don't want to follow up with these people. I only want to follow up with the people I actually talked to, and the ones that I really felt a connection with. Those are the ones that I really want to follow up on. So what I do, I find them on LinkedIn, if we haven't connected yet on the spot, or I just take the email address from their business card. I create an email saying, you know what, this is what I really liked about meeting you. I enjoyed our conversation about, XYZ, to really make it personal. And then always add a little gift. Either it's an article, or it's a video, or perhaps it's a giveaway, or it's a connection to someone else. But always start giving something. And it doesn't necessarily need to be something that you give away. I mean, like your opt-in freebie, for instance. That can be, but only if it's really adding value for that person. Yeah. So, or if it refers to a conversation that you had during the networking event. So always make it relevant, make it valuable. What I often do is to create a link to a newspaper article, or a reporter who looks for people to interview, or whatever. It's just to create a kind of database of interesting links that you can offer to the people that you meet. And that doesn't cost that much. It just takes some time to research. I always do that on a Tuesday morning. I always do that, and I take half an hour to find interesting articles, to do some research, and I create a database, and then I can just use it with the people that I meet at networking events. So either it's following up on LinkedIn, it's following up by email, and what I sometimes do is I create a little video for a person that I met, and then I just create a video and say, you know what, it was so much fun to meet you. I really enjoyed our conversation about XYZ, and I will send you a link to this and that article or that TEDx talk, or I don't know what, anything that's really adding value for them.
Yeah, something that you spoke about at that event, because if you are having a conversation and you truly are listening as you're meeting these people, it gives you an opportunity to come back and go, you know what, I just read this article and it made me think of our conversation from yesterday. So how do you reconnect it back together? So I love that you're able to kind of pull back in what you guys spoke about. Yeah. And then it's starting to, like, people understand, like when you actually genuinely listen to other people and they realize that you actually cared enough to be engaged in that conversation and you still remember what you guys talked about, they're going to remember you just as much. Yeah, exactly. And if they don't remember you from the networking event, they will remember you for following up in such a personal way. So I think that message should contain at least a compliment to say, you know what, I really liked your, well, XYZ, your smile, the way you addressed, the way you helped me, the way you gave me feedback on my pitch or anything. So it should contain a compliment. It should contain an element that you discussed when you had the conversation, and it should contain a little gift. And it doesn't need to be that much, but just to make sure it's personal. That's, and especially if that really works. And if you are going to connect with them more too, I know a lot of times I'll even say, like, you know, let's get back together again, maybe next week or next month, and let's have coffee. Definitely. Yeah, let's strategize together on how we can help each other grow our businesses and just be that connector person, or even getting back with them and saying, you know what, we're not necessarily the best referral partners for each other, but my friend so-and-so does this type of work, and I think you guys would really connect together. Can I take both of you guys to lunch? Or let's meet for coffee and I'll introduce you guys together. It's I love that. Just to have that. That's one of my favorite things to do. I'm a big connector. If I can find a way to connect people together, I think I could be living off of just doing that alone. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do stuff for me too. Wait a minute. But I love connecting other people. Like that's one of my maybe love languages, is just being able to have a chance to connect people together and say, you know what, your business would complement really nicely with this person, or I think you guys might be able to help each other. And they remember you too. They're like, you know what, Darlene connected me. Yeah, definitely. And they want to give back. I think that's such a great way to do it. I mean, that's what I do too. I mean, I connect people. I always introduce people on LinkedIn. Say, oh, you should meet him or her. You will be great together and have a good time. And sometimes I organize online meetings so people can meet two or three at the same time. I mean, it saves time. It's efficient, and then you just can have a little conversation, a nice chat, and then you're on your way again. So that works really well, and it's really all about creating a true connection as human beings and not just as business people. Of course, you know, it is about business, but it's really humans do business with humans, right? So you need the human connection, and that's what I really love about creating those meaningful connections. Yeah, and the more that you give, it comes back to you in tenfold. Exactly. So, and I think looking at it too, not expecting it in return is the most beautiful thing. Like just giving to authentically want to help and connect people together. Exactly. And not having anything tied to it, where if I help 10 people today, those 10 people are going to come back to me. Like, don't have those expectations.
No, no.
Because when it does come back to you, it's a beautiful thing, but don't expect it. Like, that would be my top thing to share with that too, is just give for the sake of giving. And when it comes back tenfold, you'll know why.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you know what? I really believe that in the long run, that is what will happen, because people will always remember that you are the giving kind of person, and I really believe that will happen. So yeah, I love that.
Well, perfect. I think we've shared a lot of nuggets today on networking, and I know some good refreshers for me, even just things to do differently when I walk into a room to make those connections, and then following back up is vital. If you learn nothing else from today, definitely follow back up with people. Build those relationships. Like, it takes a little bit to have a relationship. You can't just go out one time, meet somebody, and automatically think they're going to think of you the next time that they need your service. You have to nurture and love on that relationship, and connect them with other people. Find ways to network with them again, meet them for coffee, send them articles. There's so many different ways that you can follow back up and build those relationships and connect from. So as we wrap up for today, what's your top tip? If people were to leave this call and took nothing else away from it, what would you say is the number one thing that you want people to go out and do in the new year?
Oh, I really want people to have a great sales pitch, because you need it. You really need a sales pitch. People need to know what you do, who you are, what you do, how you do it, and what result you bring. I mean, that's what people need to know. So create your sales pitch. And it doesn't need to be a sleazy car sales like thing. I mean, it should be something that sticks. And if it can be super short, but craft your sales pitch. That's would be my main thing. And I have a lovely gift to share with our viewers, because I have a kind of framework that people can use, and you can download it from my site, and I will share the link definitely. But I think that really helps you to craft your pitch, to create a first draft, and then adapt it and change it a bit, and then have a final version, because you need it.
Yes, and that's a great gift to have. I love that everyone who's involved, obviously, with the summit is gifting some kind of resource that's going to go and automatically help you change your business. So, and you're helping them change their pitch for how they're introducing themselves and how they're building relationships and connecting is vital for going out and creating more success, especially while you're out networking. And whether you're networking at Starbucks in the coffee shop, or if you're at an actual networking event, everywhere you go, when you leave as an entrepreneur, every time you leave your house, there's an opportunity for you to build a relationship and to make connections. So
definitely. Yeah, and it's not just at networking events. I mean, it could be at the birthday party of your uncle. I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere. So have your story ready, and just be able to let the words roll off your tongue like that. I mean, that's really important. So craft that pitch.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to have you today. Tell our listeners, how can they find you? What's the best channels to connect with you on?
Oh my goodness. I am on LinkedIn, and I am on Instagram with my very difficult Dutch name, but I'll share the links. I'm on Facebook, obviously. And of course, through my website, www.personalize.nl. And connect with me, find me, shoot me a message. I'm really happy to connect and to create great things together.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicoline, for coming on here today and talking with us. I know this is vital information. Everyone's going to be able to take it and start making those little small changes every day in their business to grow their brand and have a thriving 2019. So I appreciate you coming on with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Great. Thank you.